First, a new report by MPs has called for the government to appoint a new touring czar to make it easier for musicians to work in Europe. The all-party parliamentary group on music says since the UK left the European Union, music workers have faced increased costs and new restrictions on everything from visas to where they're allowed to take their equipment vans. Well, last year, the Let the Music Move campaign was launched to call for the government to intervene. And I'm joined now by one of its co-founders, Annabella Coldrick, the chief executive of the Music Managers Forum. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So just remind us, before we go any further, what are the kind of problems now that musicians face after Brexit when they head over to the EU to try and perform?
Basically, artists post-COVID are now post-Brexit, are experiencing a whole host of additional red tape and bureaucracy as a result of Britain no longer being part of the customs union. So additional bureaucracy and paperwork around merchandise that often ends up funding a lot of touring, particularly tours that only just break even. Additional rules around a goods passport called a carnet that you have to pay for in advance, which must list all the equipment that you take with you and that you bring back out. And there's a cost and a bond associated with that. And on top of all of that, there are extremely restrictive rules around how many stops a concert tour might do, an actual physical touring vehicle, before having to return to the UK because we're no longer part of the European Union. That's limited to 3. So we've ended up having most British concert haulage companies being told by our government to move to the EU, which has limited availability of trucks for touring and also pushed up costs. And on top of that, in some countries, we've had visa and work permit restrictions. And most of those are starting to be resolved, but all the other issues still remain and we've seen no progress on them.
So what do you make of these calls now for the government to appoint a touring czar to help try and, unravel some of this red tape?
Well, we think it's so essential because every conversation we've had with different ministers have bounced us around to another minister. So you go and talk to the Department of Culture and they say, actually, that's a matter for the Department of Transport, or that's a matter for the Home Office, or that's a matter for the business department because it's concerning exports. And so I think me and many of my colleagues have just felt increasingly frustrated that there's been no one person taking ownership for the mess that we have been left in, which is why we've been calling for a touring czar. But more importantly, it's not just having a minister, it's having the accountability to actually make progress on this issue, and also some funding to deal with the fact that many tours now can't break even and so are being cancelled. I talk to members every week who said, we had a tour from pre-COVID, we rearranged for 2021, we rearranged for 2022, and then we looked at the finances and realised we can't make this work now because of all these additional costs that weren't there before all of this happened, so before Brexit. So it's not just about the minister. The minister is part of the accountability. It's the other provisions that this report suggested by the MPs make that will actually make the difference.
Understood. Annabella Coldrick, thank you.